God has given us. We are so grateful and for how God has been good to us. It has been a great week, and I'm sure that you have enjoyed every bit of it. And from here, my opinion, we say a very big thank you for how you have continued supporting us, for deciding and making a choice to subscribe to this channel, and also because of the feedback that you always give us each and every time we bring an episode. We are indeed very grateful. And this day, we are happy that we are back here. We have a great topic ahead of us and a great show altogether. And from Timothy Ndua, myself, and the team who we are with here, we welcome you with both hands, and we say how grateful we are to have you together with us. Now, today, we have a great show. And our topic for our today's episode of My Opinion, we are talking about youth and depression. Youth and depression. And we want to ask ourselves a number of questions, and we'll be sharing about today's youth and the great effects that depression is having on our youth today. I want to start by saying that in the olden days, in the past, it was very rare for anyone to hear a young person getting depressed. It was known that the people who are prone to the challenge of depression, while they aged, those people who are in their midlife, and depression was majorly associated with maybe midlife crisis, whereby somebody feels that they have not achieved what they would have thought they would have achieved by that time, where people look back and see the kind of life they have lived before, where people could look back and see the many things that they wanted to accomplish which they have not accomplished yet, and people could get depressed. They could feel that they can pity themselves. They could see that time is running out. They could see that indeed there is too much that they wanted to achieve, but there is too little time left to achieve any of those. And at such point, people could start having accumulated thoughts in their minds which could lead them to a state of depression. It was very rare for a young person, a teenager, a child, a youth to be spotted to having been going through depression. But things have changed, and today you'll get even young children as young as those who are in primary school. You'll find that they are going through depression. You come across youthful people who are quite young, below 18 years of age, others are between 18 and 35, people who you expect that a lot of what they are facing are usual challenges that any youth can be going through, but you find that the youth are undergoing very depressive moments. And so, I dedicate our today's show to talk about youth and depression. And before we get into maybe what has been causing depression among the youth, now I want to give you a small of my lifestyle or of my history, because there was a time I was depressed in life, and that was back in year 2009, and I had a moment, like a whole year or so, that I suffered depression. By then I didn't know what was going around my mind, but I had found myself getting into some financial crisis. I was a young man with a very young family, and I was employed, and when I was in employment, my salary was not so big, but I went further to commit it and took a car loan, and so a good part of my salary used to go to repay the loan, and I didn't have a lot left at my disposal. And now you can see this young man working in a very formal environment, wearing a suit each and every day and a tie, driving a good car, but having a very small salary to take home. It was even difficult to fuel that particular car. It was very difficult even to feed my very family. And then, because my village mates, my local church, and anybody else knew where I used to work, there was their big expectations from this young man who is working. And they could send their cards, they could invite me to their harambes, to their fundraising events, and there was pressure all around. I didn't have the resources that I needed to match my current status as at that time. And so I started now hiding and withdrawing from people. I started finding myself struggling even to meet my basic needs. And yet the society was demanding too much of me. It went ahead until I could not even comfortably work. I could not enjoy the work that I was doing. And at the end of the day, I lost that opportunity. And it only became very worse. I realized that I had been depressed when I couldn't even find sleep. I could, gaze the whole night, and I could find myself concentrating on, issues that I had no solution over. And that is when I noted that all was not well in my life. Of course, I lost weight. Of course, I withdrew from my family. It took a whole year before I visited home. And at the end of the day, I noted that all was not well with me. I was very young, in my mid-20s, but that is how I ended up realizing that all was not well. And I suffered and went through it, not knowing that I was suffering from depression. It is only later on I didn't know that kumbe it was depression that I was suffering from. Well, today, millions of youth face similar challenge of depression in their lives. But rarely will people understand their condition, because one, many still think that the youth are not supposed to be depressed. They do not have issues that are they are struggling about. They do not have problems that they can talk about that can cause them to be depressed. Parents will not understand that their youth and their teenagers can be depressed, because they wonder, my son is not paying school fees, my son is not paying, even having a family, my daughter is not having those bills to pay, I cater for everything. So what on earth is this that could be depressing my daughter or my son? So many people will not understand when their children go through such turbulent times that may lead them to be depressed. And that's why today we ask ourselves, what are some of these reasons that eventually lead to the teenagers and even the youth getting depressed in their lives? It is quite sad that somebody can suffer all their lives, or the great part of their lives, without people appreciating that they are indeed suffering. Now, the first thing that, in my opinion, I feel is the major cause for depression among the youth is actually low self-esteem. Now, self-esteem means a lot to any youthful individual. The confidence that you have on yourself, the confidence that you have on your abilities, the confidence that you have on your capacity to handle issues and handle situations. In my view, if it is low, if you feel that you don't have the courage to face the issues that are ahead of you, then you are likely to suffer from low self-esteem, and eventually it can lead to depression. Well, I have seen people who have low self-esteem because of their appearance. Maybe they are so skinny, maybe others are so huge, they are obese, they do not like their faces, they do not like how they have been formed, they don't like their body configuration, and they feel like they don't have what it means to be great people, to be that handsome man or that beautiful girl. And that may stick at the back of their minds, and having it prolonged in their minds, it may lead to a lot of sadness in their lives, which eventually may lead to depression. We also have issues to do with the capacity to handle relationships. Now, those people who try to be in relationships and who keep breaking up time and again, they may lower, or they may have a low self-esteem. They may feel like they do not have what it takes to have a good, a stable, and a lasting relationship. And this is another way that somebody feels that they are not having that which they need in their lives, and they don't have capacity to have a good relationship, and this as well leads to low self-esteem. This same self-esteem have led many into the abuse and the misuse of drugs and substances. Most of the people who engage in alcoholism, those who engage in other hard drugs and substance abuse, most of them do it as a result of having a low self-esteem in their lives. So you will find men and women very young in age, they want to prove a point in life, they want to face a certain situation, but because they don't have the courage, because they do not have the capacity to do it, you find them engaging in drugs and substance abuse. And of course, what they do to an individual, they drain them, and eventually they feel that they are emotionally drained, and they end up getting depressed. So, in my opinion, I feel that for every parent and for every teacher, for every person who is dealing with a young person around them, they could be your fellow youth members, they could be your children, they could be your brothers and your sisters, either younger or elder. It is important you help them to maintain and sustain a high self-esteem on themselves. Help them build confidence over themselves, and with that they'll be able to fight this problem of depression among the young people. And I also want to talk about something else called dysfunctional families. Now, a dysfunctional family can be defined as that family that lacks boundaries, that lacks rules. Now, such a family could be, there's no harmony between the husband and the wife. There are no rules, there are no boundaries, there are no, it's not functioning, in other words. Now, if there are family challenges, they can quite easily affect the development and the lifestyle of your teenage sons and daughters, and also the youth and the young people that you have around you. So anytime a couple is not in agreement or in harmony, anytime the husband is against the wife, anytime there are fights in a family, you'll always see that it will lead to a lot of discomfort among the children. When the husband is fighting the wife, when there's no unity, when there's no oneness, it will always boil down to the children which you have around you. And so, in my opinion, when fights are especially conducted in the full glare of the children in a family, it will eventually have a very negative impact on the lives of these children. And finally, the change in the environment can as well lead to depression in the young people's lives. Now, if you change your son or your daughter from the school they have been, and you give them a transfer to a different school, or you relocate to a new area, or you force them to stay with their in-laws or your in-laws or their grandparents, you force them to stay with their aunts or their uncles. Now that change of environment normally brings some psychological torture in the life of this child before they adapt, and sometimes it can take a lot of time adapting, and eventually these children feel that they are like rejected, or they are like being thrown away from where they ought to get comfort, and that is in their homes. And so this again brings to a great challenge, and it can lead to depression among the young people. And I want to conclude by talking about the pressure from social media. Today, technological advancement has given birth to the social media, and sometimes there's great pressure that comes along with such. Today there are some young people who are very much addicted to Instagram, to Facebook, to YouTube, to Twitter, and any other social media platform that we have on board. And sometimes there is the need to attract or to bring attention, to bring on board huge follow-up, to bring on board huge likes and comments in your post and your content and whatever you are giving to other people. How your friends see you, how other people relate with you in the social media. There's that person you expect them to text you or to chat with you, and they're not there. There's that picture you have posted, and you expect a lot of comments and likes, and maybe they are not coming up, and you may even feel it's affecting your self-esteem as well. And so this pressure that we are getting from the social media can as well, and for real, bring also depression in a young person's life. And so in my opinion, we ought to support the young generation to overcome this great challenge of depression. And I feel that each and everyone has a role to play, and especially the parents, the teachers, the uncles, the aunts, the grandparents, those people who live with these young and teenagers. We have a great role to play, because if we do not treat them as individuals who can fall into the problem of depression, then we may assume and we may lose them. And that is my opinion. I'm sure that you as well could be having your opinion over this very issue. I'm sure you could be living with your young brother or young sister, your son or your daughter who are facing challenges already, even as we talk about depression among the youth. Feel free to share in the comment section. Feel free to contact us. Feel free to let us know your opinion over the same. And with this, more and more will get edified and will be taught about what they ought to know at this time. Remember, in my opinion, we always handle issues with an open mind and from a scriptural reference. And for today, we stop there, and we are indeed very grateful. Make sure you share this content. Make sure that you continue following us, even as we bring good and new things each and every Thursday coming to you through this particular channel. And until next Thursday, when we meet at the same channel, Timothy Ndua, my name is Timothy Ndua, and I wish you God's blessings all the time. This is my opinion. God bless you.